Oh my God.
What?
Oh, hold on a second. Wait a minute.
Did that guy just cut you off?
Yes, he did. And you know what it was?
What?
Illinois plates.
Of course it was.
Illinois plates, Sarah.
Illinois drivers.
Illinois, I know it. Oh my God. I swear to God, Illinois drivers, they shouldn't be allowed to drive in other states.
Yeah, I swear to God, they should take away their license. This is crazy.
We swear to God that this is just, it's terrible. It's awful.
My God.
Oh
my God.
They're going to be the death of both of us. Is what's going to happen.
No,
That's what's going to happen.
No, this is terrible.
Oh, man. Oh.
Thank God we live in Indiana.
Thank God we live in Indiana. The third commandment says, "You shall not take the Lord's name in vain." That's an interesting commandment. I mean, what would it mean for us to take God's name in vain? What would it mean for us to use God's name the right way, you know? I think for a lot of us in modern day America, we think that because we have the right to free speech, we shouldn't have commandments that limit the ways that we would talk. God thinks about it in another way. Throughout history, Christians have interpreted this commandment to mean that you wouldn't be allowed to say phrases like, "oh my God," or "I swear to God." Some others have said it wouldn't be allowed for us to put our hands on a Bible and to swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help us God. So what does the third commandment really tell us what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do? That's the question we have to ask. The question of what does God care about words, that's an interesting one. If we turn to the first chapter of the Gospel of John, John tells us that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And God identifies himself with words in a really, really powerful way. We think about the words of the Bible. They are the words that help us understand in the firmest, truest ways how we're supposed to relate to God, how we're supposed to understand God. It's clear that all throughout the Bible, God cares a lot about the words that we use. The words that we use to describe the world and our situation, and maybe even more importantly, the words that we use to describe God. Early in the 20th century, an American businessman named Dale Carnegie wrote a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And in his book, Carnegie talks about the fact that the most beautiful sound to most people's ears is the sound of their own name. He's talking about the power that using somebody's name well has. If you know that somebody knows your name and calls you by name, if you know that people are associating your name with good things and honorable things, it brings honor to you, it makes you happy, it gives you joy. The fact that Carnegie taps into this fact about names is a powerful thing. So if Carnegie is right when he says that names really matter, we can look in the Bible and see just how true that is. Moses, the greatest prophet in the history of the Israelites, his name literally means pulls out. He was pulled out of the reeds. He'll be the one that pulls the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt. Or take the judge Samuel. His name literally means God has heard, or he has heard from God, because God spoke to him in the middle of the night and Samuel heard God's voice. Well, it turns out that God has a personal name in the Bible as well. God's name is pronounced something like Yahweh or Jehovah. The word literally means I am that I am, the name that Moses learns when God shows himself as the burning bush. God's personal name, God's name Jehovah, that we're not supposed to use. This name indicates just how important names are. Of course, today it doesn't really come up very often that we would use God's personal name. It's not really available for us to abuse very often, so we don't have to worry about it so much. We'll usually use words like God or Lord. So the commandment is about something different for us. The commandment is about using God's name in a way that honors God. It's tempting for us to swear to God because it makes our oath, it makes our swear more powerful. Some people will say, did you really do that? And we'll say, I swear to God I did. Meaning, I really appeal to the Lord Almighty God to indicate that I'm telling you the truth. I think God cautions us against this. It's something like God saying, if you have to appeal to me to make your word more trustworthy, maybe you need to rethink how honest of a person you are. Sarah's asleep, so I'll try to keep it down. A long road trip can bring out the worst in us. I think whether we're stuck in traffic or if somebody cuts us off, we immediately jump to our worst cuss words, our greatest curses using God's name, our most vicious stereotypes like mine that's about Illinois drivers. God's third commandment is about saying the words you choose to use demonstrate the character that you live into. We can choose to use cuss words and swear words. We can choose to invoke God's name in order to curse, and in that way demonstrate the worst parts of ourselves that we all have. Or we can choose to use words that bless others, that demonstrate that we are a forgiven and a redeemed people in Jesus Christ. We can choose to use words that honor and glorify God's name. And when we decide to use God's name, God's holy name, we can use it in a way that testifies that God is a good and a forgiving, an accepting, a loving, and a powerful God, not a petty God who is interested in curses.